The warehouse lights flickered once, then again, before shutting off completely. A low hum echoed as the backup generators kicked in, casting the massive storage space in an eerie red glow. Alarm sirens wailed through the rafters, bouncing off the concrete walls and sending waves of panic through the night shift crew. Liam Gray stood motionless in the heart of the chaos. Tall, lean, and always with that tired look in his eyes. He was the night security guard for Barton Logistics, a mid-sized distribution center on the edge of Columbus, Ohio. For months now, he had been regarded as little more than a background fixture, the quiet guy with the clipboard, who never seemed to do much beyond his patrol rounds and monitoring cameras. Tonight, everything changed. A towering rack of boxed electronics had tipped over like dominoes, smashing into another shelf, which in turn sent a chain reaction down row 4. Boxes spilled everywhere, some broken, others teetering dangerously. Forklifts were halted mid-dial, their drivers frozen or yelling to one another over the screeching alarms. The air was thick with dust, confusion, and tension. Liam scanned the room quickly. He noticed something no one else had. The toppled units had blocked one of the emergency exits. Another pile was leaning dangerously, threatening to fall on the main aisle that led to the front office. His eyes narrowed. He walked briskly toward the shift supervisor, Ronnie, a burly man with a temper quicker than his reflexes. To clear the north aisle now, Liam said firmly, louder than his usual barely above a whisper tone. Ronnie turned, shocked. What? Who the hell put you in charge? You're just that stack is going to collapse in the next 5 minutes if we don't relieve the pressure. Look, Liam pointed. You've got forklifts idle, assigned to 2, stabilize the load. Send 3 guys to clear that emergency exit. The fire marshal will eat us alive if it's blocked. Ronnie looked at him, dumbfounded. For a moment he hesitated. Then the second shelf started to lean. Liam didn't wait. He jogged to the nearby intercom. And, for the first time since he was hired, his voice echoed through the entire warehouse. This is Liam. Everyone, listen. Forklift operators, I need 2 of you at row 4 right now to stabilize a possible collapse. Team Bravo, clear the north emergency exit. Pallet 18 is blocking fire access. Everyone else step back, wait for instructions, and stay safe. We've trained for this. Let's move. Silence. Then movement. A real coordinated movement. Back in the control room 10 minutes later, Liam rewound the surveillance footage. He marked the exact moment the instability began, a shift in a bottom pallet that hadn't been stacked correctly. He made quick notes in a spiral notebook, calculating the weight distribution and identifying the cause, a mismatch in packaging specifications. He traced it back to an incoming shipment from the previous day. Liam, came a voice behind him. It was Jenna, the night operations assistant. Her tone was different, no longer casual, almost respectful, that was. Impressive, she said. I didn't know you had that in you. He offered a small nod. I used to study this stuff, supply chain systems, logistics. I didn't think I'd ever use it again. She blinked. Wait, like school? MBA, he said simply. Focus on supply chain management. I dropped out after the second year. Life happened. Before she could respond, the radio crackled. It was Ronnie. Liam, you better get to the floor. We've got corporate on the line. They want a full incident report, and they want to talk to you. Liam looked through the glass into the warehouse. Workers were now calmly organizing pallets under his earlier direction. The red glow was fading. Normal lights were returning. Somehow, he was the calm in the storm, and the storm had started to listen. The corporate call didn't go how anyone expected. Liam sat in the makeshift conference room just off the loading bay, still wearing his dusty warehouse jacket. Across the folding table were 2 corporate suits from Barton Logistics HQ1. Of them, a sharp-eyed woman named Karen Monroe, Director of Operations. Ted barely looked up from his tablet, rapidly typing notes. Ronnie stood in the corner, arms folded, scowling like a kid sent to detention. Karen leaned forward. We've reviewed the security footage. The emergency response? the intercom instructions, the immediate containment, ... All of it originated from you. Liam, correct? He nodded. Security. Technically, yes. I'm on third shift site security. I also help manage internal camera audits. And yet, you performed a rapid response logistics triage that minimized damages, preserved OSHA compliance, and potentially saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars in disruption penalties. Liam looked slightly uncomfortable. I just saw what needed to be done. Karen glanced at Ted, then back. Where did you learn to think like that? Ohio State. I did a graduate program in supply chain management. Didn't finish. Family things. I took this job while trying to keep things stable, Ted chimed in, finally looking up. You're the one who wrote those internal memos on pallet stacking protocol last winter, right? Liam's eyes widened a bit. They weren't official memos. It's just suggestions I submitted anonymously. Karen smiled slightly. They made it into our revised internal SOPs. We thought it was from one of the operations consultants. Ronnie muttered something under his breath. Karen ignored him. Liam, I want a full written report on last night incident, origin, response actions, your assessment of the systemic failure. If you're willing, we'd also like your thoughts on how to prevent this from happening again. He straightened a bit. I already have the first draft. I mapped the pallet shifts using the floor cam data. The failure started with misaligned SKS in delivery batch 6A144. The stacking didn't follow the weight distribution chart. Ted blinked. You mapped pallet movements? Yeah, I color-coded the load direction to visualize the collapse path. It's kind of a hobby. Karen looked intrigued. Let me see it. 2 days later, Liam was called into a different office. This one upstairs. Glass-walled, with a view of the entire warehouse floor. He hadn't been up there since orientation. Karen stood at the window, arms crossed, watching forklifts glide. Like clockwork across the polished floor, we're starting a reorganization of our night shift logistics protocols, she said without turning. And I need someone who understands the ground reality, someone who sees patterns the way you do. Liam remained still. She finally turned. I want you to act as interim night operations coordinator. You'll report directly to me. You'll retain security clearance but have full access to shift planning, staging algorithms, and vendor intake metrics. He opened his mouth, closed. It then said, Why me? She raised an eyebrow. Because you're already doing the job better than the people paid to. That night, alone in the control room, Liam pulled out a tattered folder from his backpack. Inside was a set of diagrams, old sketches from school facility blueprints, RFID inventory flow maps, and alternate layout models. He'd kept them. Even when he stopped believing they mattered, he spread them across the desk, then overlaid the current warehouse layout using a transparency sheet. Where others saw lines and numbers, Liam saw bottlenecks, heat zones, inefficiencies. He began sketching. Meanwhile, word of the promotion spread. To some on the night shift, it was a surprise. To others, it was an insult. They gave the security guy a manager badge, sneered Tony, a forklift veteran with 10 years under his belt. What's next? The janitor runs payroll. He's not even certified on heavy lift equipment, another chimed. In. How's he gonna lead? Jenna overheard and stepped in. He kept your asses alive when the rack started to fall. Maybe give the guy a week before you crucify him. Tony scoffed. He'd better not mess with my route schedule. Liam didn't try to win anyone over. He worked. He stayed late. He read every inventory manifest from the last 6 months. He walked every aisle. He identified recurring jams in Lane B, where a misplaced pillar shaved seconds off turn time, which added up to hours by month's end. He recalibrated the digital stockroom so that high-turnover items were closer to the loading docks. He reorganized the night crew into 3 dynamic teams based on skill and energy levels. The quietest workers usually overlooked became pick-and-pack speed demons when paired correctly. He didn't announce these changes, just implemented them in the scheduling app and tracked results. By the end of week 2, outbound accuracy. Rose by 11% and overnight errors dropped to near zero. Karen called again. Your heat map modeling from last night, did you run that through the standard WMS dashboard? No, Liam said. I used a free tool online. The warehouse system didn't have the variables I needed. Get whatever software you need. I'll approve. He hesitated. There's an old supply chain optimizer I used in grad school. Cost about $800. You just saved us 30 grand in overtime errors. Buy it. One night, Ronnie cornered him by the vending machines. You think you're better than us? Just 'cause you got some spreadsheets and shiny words? Liam didn't rise to the bait. You still here? Ronnie asked. Still working security hours? Still wearing that rattiest jacket? You ain't no manager? Liam looked at him calmly. I'm not better. I'm just useful. He walked away, soda in hand. Later that night, Liam updated the internal dashboard under his login. A new project folder appeared, Warehouse 2.0 Prototype Layout. Model. He clicked it open and stared at the digital blueprint. For the first time in years, the dream he'd buried under student debt, family obligations, and forgotten resumes began to stir. Maybe this wasn't a detour. Maybe it was the beginning. 3 weeks into his new role, Liam was a man surrounded by silent tension. The night crew didn't openly defy him, at least. Not yet, but he could feel it in their glances, their hushed conversations, their deliberate pace whenever he passed by. The warehouse floor might have been moving more efficiently on paper, but under the surface, resentment simmered. Liam was no fool. He'd seen it before, in group projects, where the smartest voice in the room was the quietest, or during family dinners where good ideas were drowned in volume. Authority without trust was a fragile thing. It was Thursday night. Barton Logistics was preparing for the quarterly inspection. That meant scrubbed floors, streamlined processes, and zero room for error. Karen had forwarded the checklist herself with a short note. Don't just clean. Impress them. Liam had a plan. Good one. But plans, as always, are vulnerable to people. He changed the rack labels again, Tony complained as he slammed his clipboard on the break room counter. I don't care what system optimization he's using, he can't just keep rearranging zones like this. We've been doing it one way for years. Javier, a junior loader, looked uneasy. It's actually faster now. I mean, I cut my retrieval times by almost 30 seconds since you siding with him. No, he's playing warehouse like it's SimCity and we're the damn NPCs. Meanwhile, Liam sat in the upstairs office, eyes fixed on the warehouse layout projected onto the glass board. He'd color-coded everything. Red for friction points, green for optimized paths, blue for training needs. It was more than data. It was a living map of movement and time. Jenna stepped in, holding a tablet. You should see this, she handed. It over on screen were employee performance metrics for the past week, impressive improvements. But alongside them, anonymous feedback entries began to appear. Too much change too fast. Feels like we're being tested, not trusted. Just don't even know who this guy really is. Where was Liam before all this? Liam read each one, expressionless. They're not wrong, Jenna said gently. You're brilliant, Liam, but you're invisible. People follow people, not systems. He stared out the window. Then maybe it's time I stopped being invisible. That night, he did something unexpected. He walked the floor not just to observe, but to work. He joined the loading dock team for an hour, lugging crates beside them. He reviewed checklists with Tony and let him take the lead on one batch. Ate his break meal in the break room, not alone in the control office. He asked questions, not technical ones, but personal. How long you been on night shift? What's the worst mess you ever cleaned up here? What would make this job easier for you? At first, people responded with caution. Then, curiosity. Then, slowly openness. On inspection night, the regional auditor arrived. Gray suit, clipboard. No-nonsense posture. Liam met him at the entrance. Then let the floor speak for itself. Inventory systems were aligned. The digital dashboard updated in real time. Forklift paths had been restriped for clarity. The inspector nodded more than he frowned, a rarity. But the moment of truth came when the auditor stopped in front of Tony. How's the new zone layout? Working for you? Tony hesitated. He looked up at Liam, then back. Didn't like it at first, he admitted. But it's faster, cleaner, less back and forth, so management changes have improved workflow. Yeah, and it ain't just management. Liam worked Dock 3 last week. Got his hands dirty. That counts. Liam blinked. The inspector scribbled a note and moved on. Karen, who had been silently watching, whispered to Liam as they walked behind the audit team. You didn't just fix the system. You're fixing the people inside it. He said nothing, but inside a small flame of pride lit. Later, that night, back in the office, Jenna appeared again. You know, Tony started calling you Captain Quiet? It's catching on. Liam chuckled. I've been called worse. She smiled, then grew more serious. There's something else you should see. Karen sent over a memo from corporate. It's not public yet. He took the tablet and read. Proposal. Expansion of Barton Logistics. Second facility. Cleveland. Recommended team lead. Liam Gray interim. He looked up, stunned. They want me to run an entire facility? They're considering it. But this. Time. They want you to interview. Officially. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in a long while, the path ahead wasn't vague or hypothetical. It was real, and it would be earned. The wind hit Liam like a freight train the second he stepped out of the rental car. Cleveland's air was sharper, colder than Columbus, as if the city itself was testing his resolve. In front of him stood a skeletal framework of steel and concrete. The early shell of Barton Logistics' second facility. He wasn't here as security anymore. He wasn't even here as a temp manager. He was here as a candidate. Inside the construction trailer, a makeshift conference room had been set up with folding chairs and laptops. Karen was already there, her jacket slung over a chair, a coffee, steaming beside a thick binder. Glad you made it, she said without looking up. They'll be ready in 15. You nervous? Liam didn't answer immediately. He was. But more than nervous, he was aware. This was his chance to define what came next. The panel was composed of 3, a regional director, corporate HR, executive, and a senior supply chain architect from the Boston office. All suits. All skeptical. The questions came quickly. How do you handle staff who resist change? What would your first 90 days look like here? Have you ever managed a P&L this size? Liam answered calmly, not like a man who had memorized textbook responses, but like someone who had lived the answers, didn't sell himself. He explained what he did, what worked, what didn't, and what he learned. When the architect asked, "What's your philosophy on warehouse design?" Liam leaned forward. It's not about design. It's about flow, movement. People think warehouses are about storage. They're not. They're about velocity. You need to know where things want to go before they even arrive. The room went quiet. Karen smiled to herself, later walking through the skeleton structure of the new warehouse. Liam stopped near the edge, where the receiving bay would soon be built. Could already picture the layout. Not just the racks and lanes, but the people. The night shift team. The mistakes. The moments of brilliance. He pulled out his phone and opened the file he had started weeks ago. Warehouse 2.0. Then he added a new tab. Cleveland build, live draft. He wasn't waiting anymore. He was building forward. Back in Columbus, the crew was different without Liam on the floor. Jenna had taken over interim duties and she felt the pressure mounting. Tony was more cooperative now, but problems still popped up, especially when a misrouted truck created a cascade of delays. Liam would have seen that coming. One worker muttered. Jenna sighed. She missed him too. But she also knew this was part of the process. If Liam was meant to lead a new facility, they had to learn how to operate without him hovering nearby. Karen called her later that night. He crushed the interview. Karen said, but the board's nervous. He's still an unknown to them. I need a report from you. What's your honest read? Jenna paused. He doesn't command attention. He earns it. With clarity and consistency. People trust him because he listens. He fixes things without blaming. If you want someone who'll make noise, pick someone else. But if you want someone who builds something that lasts, pick Liam. Karen didn't respond for a moment. Then, that's all I needed to hear. A week later, Liam returned to Columbus. The warehouse felt smaller now, not in size but in scope. He walked the lanes quietly, watching the systems he'd shaped running on their own. At the break table, someone had left him a chocolate bar with a note, for Captain Quiet from the skeleton crew.
Ow!
He smiled. Jenna approached, holding her phone. "You might want to take this," she said, handing it over. It was Karen. "You're in," she said simply. "Cleveland is yours. Full budget authority. Team building starts next week. You'll get 5 hires to bring from Columbus. The rest you pick." Liam nodded slowly. Understood. "Oh," Karen added. "And one more thing. Going to present your warehouse design plan to the executive board next month? Think you're up for it?" Liam looked out across the floor, his old floor, where he had once just been another quiet figure in the shadows. I am now. The wind off Lake Erie was merciless that March morning. But inside the freshly sealed walls of the Cleveland facility, a different kind of energy buzzed. Anticipation. Liam stood at the center of the cavernous space. Concrete was smooth, the lighting crisp, the racks only half installed. It was a blank canvas, intimidating, yet full of promise. Today was day 1, and he wasn't alone. Jenna entered first, grinning as she looked around. Not bad for a guy who used to sleep through lunch breaks in the control room. Liam smirked. "I was optimizing nap logistics." Behind her came the rest of the Columbus picks. Javier, the quiet loader who worked fast and never complained. May, a data-savvy inventory clerk. And Kenji, an old friend from Liam's university days, brought in as a systems technician. "Skeleton crew assembled," Jenna said. Liam looked around. "Then let's start building flesh and bone." The next 2 weeks were a blur of hiring interviews, vendor meetings, and IT installations. Liam delegated more than he ever had, learning fast that leadership wasn't about control, it was about trust. They named their internal rollout plan, Project Pulse, to reflect their philosophy that the warehouse was not a storage box, but a living, breathing system. New hires trickled in, some green, some grizzled, all watching Liam to see what kind of leader he really was. He made one thing clear: we don't just move boxes, we move expectations, and we don't cut corners. We design curves. The motto stuck, but with new visibility came new pressure. Corporate demanded a full systems demo by end of month. The C-suite would fly in, the press would attend, and Liam would present a complete warehouse design plan in front of executives who barely knew his name a month ago. Every night, Liam returned to the blueprints, revised, redrew, recalculated. Kenji ran simulations. They built dashboards. Javier coordinated mock runs with forklifts and pickers. Still, no cracks began to show. One night, a miscommunication led to a full pallet crash in Zone 3. No injuries, but the cost set them back a week. Liam stayed late, restacking boxes with bare hands while the rest of the team watched. "You're the manager," Javier said. "You shouldn't be doing that. If I won't, why should they?" Liam replied, wiping sweat from his brow. Days later, Karen visited the site. She found Liam pacing outside the warehouse, muttering to himself, practicing his pitch. "You look like you're about to defend a dissertation," she said. "I feel like I'm building one out of concrete and forklifts." Karen nodded. "You know the system better than anyone. You've already proven it works. Just don't forget, they're not here to be impressed by math. They want to believe in you." Liam looked away. "That's the hard part." "And say that. Say it honestly. That's your strength." The night before the presentation, the team gathered inside the warehouse, now glowing with motion sensor lights. Jenna brought pizza. They sat on overturned crates, laughing between bites, like it was college all over again. Then silence fell. Javier raised a soda can. To Captain Quiet, "You got us here." Gubba, Liam raised his own. To the crew that said yes before the world did, they toasted. Then Liam returned to his tablet, reviewed his notes one last time, and exhaled. Tomorrow, the story would leave the shadows, and stepped fully into the light. The day of the presentation arrived under gray Cleveland skies. Rain tapped gently against the massive warehouse skylights, casting rippling shadows across the polished floors. The space had transformed, not just physically, but in energy. No longer a shell, a living organism. Liam adjusted the collar of his blazer, borrowed slightly too tight. He hadn't worn one in years. Around him, the crew made final checks. Forklifts lined up in their bays, digital screens alive. With dashboards, racks stocked with simulated inventory, everything gleamed. Corporate cars rolled in like a motorcade. Executives stepped out, suits, heels, umbrellas. Then came the media team. Cameras, lights, pressure. Kieran greeted them. She walked alongside the CEO, a silver-haired man named Douglas Hayes. He surveyed the facility with measured interest. Then Karen nodded toward Liam. "This is the man who built it. Liam Gray, facility lead." Hayes extended a hand. "You're the former security guy, right?" Liam smiled slightly. "Still security-minded, sir?" Just with a broader perimeter, the presentation was held on a mobile platform near the main bay. Projectors lit up whiteboards, chairs arranged in neat rows. Jenna stood to the side, ready with clicker and backup files. The crew watched from the rafters, whispering among themselves. Liam stepped up. His palms were sweating. But then he looked at his team. Javier with a smudge of grease on his brow, arms folded proudly. Kenji holding a tablet. Jenna, steady as ever, and he spoke, not with force, but with truth. "I'm not your typical facility lead. I didn't come from a fast-track program. I started by watching unnoticed. But watching teaches you things, like where time leaks, where systems bend, where people get tired or ignored or brilliant. This warehouse isn't just a layout. It's a language. Every aisle says something. Every movement is a verb. And we built a place where those verbs align. This isn't about automation or metrics. It's about people trusting a flow and becoming part of it." He clicked through slides, heat maps, productivity curves, a live feed of a pick-and-pack sequence. Then the final slide, efficiency is empathy at scale. Silence. Then applause. It wasn't thunderous, but it was real. Hayes nodded. Looking thoughtful, he leaned toward Karen. "Not what I expected, but maybe exactly what we need." That evening, the crew gathered in the warehouse one last time before going home. Jenna brought out a bottle of cheap champagne. They poured into plastic cups. "Two," Liam May said. "To all of us," he corrected. "Every system needs a team. Every leader needs one more." They see Lind. Weeks passed. Headlines rolled in. Quiet leader transforms Cleveland logistics scene. Efficiency from the shadows. How one man rewrote warehouse design. Captain Quiet and the Pulse model. A case study. Liam kept a printed copy of the first headline. In his office, just one. He didn't hang it, just folded it, once, and tucked it into the back of his notebook. He still walked the floor every night, still took coffee in silence, still listened more than he spoke. But now, people listened. Back. One night, as he locked up late, a young new hire caught up to him at the door. "Hey, Mr. Gray? What's the trick to getting noticed here?" Liam thought a moment, then answered, "Don't try to be noticed. Try to be useful. The rest follows." The kid nodded. Liam walked out into the Cleveland night, the air crisp, the future wide open. He was never just a guard. He had been a builder all along.